All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Seniors Uncensored. This is our 10th episode, and today we are privileged to have Tay Spike and Jeremy Reeves. And you know Sharita over there, Sharita Slayton from the Legacy Collaborative, and me, Dr. Cat from Dynamic Solutions. We actually the three musketeers. We missing one. Miss Graves, I'm sorry you couldn't make it here today, but this episode is for you. We even got a cheer for you right there. But today's episode is really to focus on intergenerational programming. We met these two gentlemen, Sharita and I, because we're participating in a Johns Hopkins program called Ward Affinity. And we thought that their work was so dynamic and really relatable in terms of diabetes and eating healthy and looking for solutions that we had to have them on the set to be able to see what they're doing and how seeds can play a part. But I'm going to let them have the opportunity to tell their stories, we could give an introduction and get into some conversation. All of it may not be about health, but you have the privilege of hearing a dialogue today. Go ahead, Tay.
Okay. My name's Tay. I go by Wassup Te. I created Wassup Te LLC to bring art into health, to combine art and health. A few short years ago, like two, I changed my diet because I was working with some friends who do the urban garden in Ward 5. They all from Northeast. I'm from Southeast DC. My friends from Ward 5 Northeast, and they were doing urban gardening, but they were doing it in Ward 7 and Ward 8, east of the river, because it's where it was most needed. So I came to a couple of their events, and I seen, the impact they had on the children. That was cool, But more so, the impact it was having on them as individuals. So I was like, I came out, did a couple poems for them to entertain certain crowds, and I have a shake or a smoothie. You know what I mean? That smoothie would hold me for like a whole day. I ain't eat a lot, like a couple years ago. And I said, damn, like if one of these smoothies make me feel like this, I wonder what would have happened if I really changed my diet. Once I did that, I started making more money. I started meeting, different levels of people. Life changed. Once I changed my diet, my life changed. And I just wanted to get that back to the people that were still around me. Because once you reach a certain level, you can't really hang with the same people in the same crowds in the same places. And those are the people you love. And those are the places you love. So you want to bring it with you. So I was like, how can I bring my people with me? Mm-hmm. Explain to them what I got in a way that that they can digest and they can still be themselves, So my uncle got diabetes. He had diabetes since he was 16 years old. We like less than 15, 12 years apart. So I grew up with him, and my grandmother passed. Since my grandmother passed, he hit the bottom real heavy, and it was just killing his body. It's like, nigga, my God, you got diabetes, you know what I'm saying? You can't do what you used to doing. And once I got into the diet change, I said, man, I'm gonna find something for you, man. And my man put me on the okra. It was like, okra is good for, people with diabetes. And I was like, all right, say less. So we went to the grocery store, we tried to get some okra. We wasn't on the whole road. They ain't have no okra. And we just thought that was crazy because we went out our way to go to the grocery store to get okra. And we don't, we don't go do shit like this. So we went and did it. They didn't have okra. And then it just like he lost his hope with it. I don't need no hope. I don't need that. I'm like, man, damn, I felt so bad. I put it in a poem. And I ended up performing that poem at the Y, I ended up performing that poem at NPR, I ended up performing that poem at a couple different places, meeting these different type of people. And they would always want me to come out and perform this specific poem. The poem, we shot a video for the poem. The video went viral, ended up, going like 400, 500,000 people views, something like that.
Wow.
And what ended up happening was, they said that we touched a demographic that was untouchable, which was black males between the ages of 25 and 50 years old. They said if It's like you can't touch that demographic. They don't tap into stuff online. You can't get data from that demographic. So what ended up happening was after that I ended up working with several nonprofits, getting paid well. You know what I mean? Well enough to step away from everything else I was doing and just focus on this type of work. What led us to Johns Hopkins and Sibley was exactly that. You know, they somebody reached out to me and said you should try and join this World Infinity program with your poetry and with the art you're doing. Mm-hmm. So I called somebody who I knew I could count on. Two people I knew I could count on when it came to like work ethic, art, you know, and just being in the city, just knowing, you know, my man Cool, who I've known now for probably almost a decade, and just had nothing. Like we didn't do nothing with health together before. You know, me and Cool worked in the studio, and we worked with a couple people in Northeast. And then I called my man Jim Jones, who is very active in the city right now, and getting everybody, you know, physically working out. He's been getting busy for some time now, and he was supposed to come in, but Jones said so. Like he actually taking his performance pop-ups, his workouts in the middle of it. Like Jones pull up in the trenches. He pulling up in certain neighborhoods and trying to get people active. He took that down to Memphis, and he plans to like continue to go south where it's probably the most needed. Right. So we had to like let him go because of
well, the obesity rates down there are quite higher than the city, even though we're not far behind.
Yeah. And just working in this program, we just learned so much, man. So much data. You know what I mean? Just crazy statistical numbers. I had already known a lot of stuff from working with the Centers for Science and Public Interest. I work with a lot of doctors and scientists and lawyers to make sure that the poetry that I do is accurate. You know what I mean? And it's not just nice words. It's real information. What we plan to do moving forward, me and Cool, is create a documentary that will be palatable and easy to digest health information. You can actively see, you know, people like yourself who say this is what my diet has been for X amount of years and this is what I'm going through. Right. You know what I mean? And, or this is, I'm from where you from, and I, you know, took hold of my diet at a point in time, and now look at me. You know what I mean? And also involving, you know, the streets. You know what I mean? And art and history and then doctors. You know what I mean? Black doctors like yourself, and historians like Roger. And that's the plan. You know, and have it work out. Like I told, you know, World Infinity, the work gonna get done regardless.
That's right.
Y'all, if funded or have it go, it's gonna get done. It gotta get done. But yeah, that's the spirit.
Oh wow, Tay, you doing some extraordinary things. I already knew. When I came to class, I was looking. I said, listening to. I said, man, he's right. You know, not saying that you don't look right, but just to hear what you're saying, I could feel the passion. So I didn't know your story behind it. And okra?
Okra,
right? Really?
Right, okra.
You couldn't find okra over on this side.
I mean, it's crazy because it's like 2018. So like it's wild because we real loud went in there and was like, you don't have no okra. Dude was like, nah, we got okra. Let me call. And he got on the little intercom and he did the whole thing. And he was like, nah, we don't have no okra. He says, oh, sorry, bro, we don't have. Like he was hurt too. He was hurt they ain't have okra.
Well, that's a whole nother piece where we have to look at what are the items, and, you know, going through our supermarket in Ward 8 to figure out like what are they selling, and the health in terms of health products, right? Things that are healthy, that's needed. I guess that's why, like, I know another part of our cohort, there's a group that's trying to bring forth a healthy supermarket. So we need that. We can't find okra. Shereen, can you find okra in your neighborhood?
Well, I'm in Ward 7, so.
Oh, excuse me.
I'm not too far from Ward 8. And we have one supermarket as well that is about to close in a year. Safeway that's on Minnesota Avenue. So that they're developing that area and it's gonna close. But as I was sitting here listening to Tay and thinking about in the cohort Jeremy and Tay, I was so happy when we were at Sibley that first day and to see some young black males in the room, because they are so often the ones that are missing, but they always showcase them on the news for what they're not doing, right?
Oh, yeah.
So how do you now showcase what a positive impact is making? And I think of coming also from a school background, working in charter schools and understanding that which is lacking. And we talk about what they give for lunch and what they eat for breakfast, but you're not really given the history behind it. So when you talk about the generational being able to combine it, we look at so many of the seniors that we deal with diabetes, and we talk about dementia and Alzheimer's, and you wonder how did food play a part, and why is it that they then focus on it when it's almost too late, right? So Tay, I really applaud you and Jeremy for you all understanding and how we have to now really reach the youth, and that it's never too early to start, because a lot of them can probably talk to their grandparents and their parents about what is not good and why they shouldn't eat it, and how we can start changing our eating habits a little earlier.
And you know, Sharita, you actually brought something up that I hold dear. My great grandmother, Lula Brown, she lived until she was 103. She had a certain way in terms of how she prepared her food. She only bought kosher meats. She grew her own vegetables in the city, which was hard to do in Philadelphia. Or she would work with people that were growers. I remember going over as a kid, picking fruits and vegetables in Jersey with my great grandmother, which was her daughter. And at the end of the day, my grandmother was cancer free until she was 93. And when she developed colon cancer, the doctor was so surprised that, of her, I want to say, in terms of her ability to come back, regenerate in terms of her cell structure. And like, she had broke her hip and it started to heal before they could even set her. And it was because of the food she was eating. And what happened was, when she developed cancer, when I look back and we talked about it in the family, it was when she stopped preparing her own food and was buying store-bought food. So for me, at that particular point, I think I was 23 or 24, I had stopped eating meat. So I was like thinking like, I'm going to be a vegetarian or a pescatarian. I'm going to be something. Because I had saw how that had deteriorated her, and she wound up having surgery. And the doctor was like, at 93, I don't think I want to have surgery. But because of resilience, she said, oh, I'm going to have it. And she lived until she was 103. And most people, they don't even think about, doctors and surgeons do not operate on individuals after a certain age point. So, but that just tell you about the dynamics of food. And so that was real interesting that you shared that, Tay, and what you said, Sharita. This food thing is serious.
No, so I would say this. So my family has a history of living like 100 years old. Like, I have a lot of aunts, great aunts. They just passed like 3 years ago. My grandmother just passed and she was like 88, so they get up there in age. And most of it is because how they prepare their food. Most of them were born in North Carolina, back in the days where they grow their own foods. I grew up in this, going to my great aunt Betsy house, and we go over there. She had like her lettuce and the tomatoes in the back. I remember this stuff when I was younger. And it'd be pitch black at night. You couldn't see nothing. There was no lights. But she was 98 when we went to go see her and do like an interview. And all I can remember was, not only was she still funny, had her personality, but she took her own showers. She still prepared her own food. And I'm like, she almost 100 years old, moving faster than somebody that's 65. And that's really where my story comes in at with Tay. I've switched to more of a vegan lifestyle. It's sometimes I'll dab a little bit, but I mostly try to focus on my health. I had a real close friend of mine that played ball with me in college. He passed when he was younger, and it kind of shook me up. you know, because he wasn't a real big guy, but no telling how his diet was, because he died suddenly, like it was like a heart attack or something, just driving his car and something, he just didn't feel right, stopped at a gas station, passed out, never woke back up, went in a coma. So I really looked at, you know, health, and even like when we talk about back in the day, my biggest thing is like athletics and sports. We're told to eat all this protein and all this stuff, and eat all this meat and all this crazy stuff, and you eat those diets. I'm talking about we're eating 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day because we are burning off 3,000 to 4,000 calories from working out and doing that stuff and training. And when it comes down to it, it's like you have a poor diet and don't know it.
Yeah.
You know, and but they're, you know, that's what's there, and that's what you're told to eat, because you're like, you know, eat your greens and stuff like that, but make sure you get some chicken or steak and stuff, because that's what's going to energize you. And honestly, after all the research I went through, it is just ultimately false. It's a lie. You know, they're the middleman. The byproduct, you know, of it all is most of those things that we eat grass. They graze. So we're eating the byproduct of what they have. So the nutrients that we're actually eating outside of the meat is actually what they fed on, not so much the meat that we're eating.
Right.
And when you talk about football, when you hear as they call him, the GOAT right now, Brady don't eat meat.
Right.
You know, and you wonder why his longevity, and you talk about his diet in football, and he tells in his mindset and his ability to be able to focus, and it's based on his diet, and he shares that. So it's just, you still think about the miseducation of the man, right?
Oh, God.
And how we have really been miseducated, and we continue to live our lives based on what maybe our grandparents or parents told us, and we're the sum total of our experiences, right? And so when we look at that, now how do we have this paradigm shift? Because now we know better. We got to do better. And I think the difference with us having this conversation is that we realize that it's not just for us, but for all of those who are in our communities and those who are in our families, how we have to share the information with them to make a difference. And this really is about legacy building, right?
That's right.
Think about that.
Absolutely.
That's it, exactly. I'm glad you said that. I mean, because the community, one of the viable pieces in the community, and I know Tay and Jeremy, I talked about it a little bit before we got on camera, is that we have seniors, and I'm not quite, I haven't even got to the double nickels club yet, so I'm not 55 yet, but I am over 50. But what I've been blessed to do is go into my community and connect with seniors that are older that actually need to make these changes as well. But because of the fact that they're limited resource in terms of connecting to the supermarkets and what they have, and you know, so it's a hard, as you said, paradigm shift for them to start eating healthy, right? Because they eat really on what's available. So we have to figure out in our community, how do we get seniors more involved, that's why we have this dialogue as well, to figure out how do we bridge that gap, because there is a gap in terms of information and educating seniors, and also for them to play a viable role in what you're doing.
I believe people are really afraid of change because they feel like it's not going to make a difference. And, you know, with anything with change, it's going to take some type of pushback. And you got to be okay with that. You know, at the end of the day, if you look at your children, I tell them it all starts when they're young. You know, and they say, oh, my kid doesn't eat that. I said, your kid doesn't eat that because you don't feed that to them.
Right.
And they just like, no, I know. I'm like, no, if you always taking them to McDonald's, they're going to always want McDonald's. That food is scientifically put together so they can fiend for that later.
Right,
you know,
right,
they have like a nicotine trace and stuff in that McDonald's food that causes you to crave it. Even the marketing from the color of yellow, you know, making you hungry. I mean, this is scientific, like proven stuff here. And people don't even know, just in coloring. If you look at certain food places, it's not too many different colors. Most times you see gold, yellow, or red. Think about it. Most restaurants you see, they kind of glow there. But it's just because it's a proven thing that it works. So you know, when you're dealing with your kids, you want them to eat more, you know, fruits, vegetables, and stuff like that. You got to know if this is something new to them, they're going to reject it. And it's okay for them to reject it, but you just going to have to keep giving it to them and giving them less of what they want until they buy into it, because eventually they're going to buy into it because they're going to be hungry. They're going to want to eat. And then that food is going to make them feel better, because I've been doing kind of the vegan lifestyle for over 2 months. And I'm telling you, I work a lot because I'm in the entertainment business, and I'm always tired, and I just could not take it anymore. I was always tired, and literally within 3 weeks of changing my diet, like my energy level is as if I'm like 12, 13 years old. I can go 18, 20 hours, get back up after 4 hours of sleep, and do another 18, and I'm okay. People,
wow.
Yeah.
Good for you. I don't need you to be trying that at home.
Nah.
Piggyback on what Cool Sharita said about.
Wait a minute, let's go back. DJ Cool, can you give us an introduction of who you are, Jeremy Reeves, and why they call you Cool or DJ Cool?
You funny. So, all right. So, Jeremy Reeves is my name. Most people, I'm really identified my name by where people know me from. So, some people call me Mix because of DJ Mix I am. As a DJ, some people call me Cool because of the neighborhood. But I had a nickname playing ball named Cougar. So, you know, some people say he's a tiger with his stripes ripped off, whatever. But I was a big time athlete, you know, out of DC. I got accolades, I got records, I got all types of stuff. So that's kind of where that nickname came in. I'm a founder, owner of Mix I Am Entertainment. And
say that again?
Mix I Am Entertainment. You know, we've been in business, we're going to say professionally for about 5 years, but I've been in entertainment since I was 8.
Oh,
so
wow.
I've been doing it for a very long time. Had various studios around the city, storefront studios and stuff like that. Now we've gone more mobile, which has been very lucrative for us because of COVID. I didn't lack anything, you know, during COVID at all. Because of just the always shifting into what's going on now. So we've been doing that, and the reason why we got, you know, me and Tate met, like you said, I've known him for almost 10 years. And we started in the studios, and it was one of the studios that it was my first studio that started opening, and that's where I met him. So.
Oh, okay.
No background.
So you guys are in the D, you in the DMV, or you domestic? Across the state,
nah.
Global, you international?
Well, I was almost international, almost, but I am statewide anywhere. I go anywhere where they pay me, but I have been as far as Alabama just for my business, for entertainment purposes.
Oh, okay. Well, we just want to make sure everybody know and connect with who's speaking.
That's right.
DJ Cool or Mix Cool. I don't know. So what are you today?
I'm cool today.
Okay, cool. All right. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
So,
I always learn something new about Cool, man. That's crazy. I've known Cool since I was like 19, 20 years old, man. And I think, like when I met Cool, we was on some nut stuff. We nowhere near any of this. I promise you that. It's just good though to see. Like I remember when we first got into the call, he said he was setting a personal goal for himself, and then we both y'all went vegan at the same time, and I stepped back. I went back to vegetarian because I couldn't handle it. So it's just good to see him progressing, especially coming from where we all came from, working with the people we were working with. And to always know, like we always kept in touch over time, and it's just good to see him doing his thing. We started as a group of 3. They wanted us to have 4. We brought 2 different 3s in and let them both go, and we let them know, like, you know, we can do this, you know, we got this. But just say that. Just piggybacking off what Sharita and Cool was saying about bridging that gap with the seniors and the kids. What we figured out with our research is that most people are, I hate to use the word ignorant, I want to say they're not
ready.
They don't care.
They
don't care. Like, they wake up in the morning, and a lot of them got muscle memory over, you know, for the last 3 years, so they think they look good. You don't know what somebody's arteries look like. You don't know what your blood, how your blood moving. So they have no thoughts about what their diet is, or they waking up with 10 problems immediately. You know what I mean? 10 problems immediately.
You talk about like personal problems.
Personal problems.
We ain't got no food, my clothes ain't clean, I ain't got no way to go to school.
You know what I'm saying?
And damn, the electric just went off. Yeah, that kind of problem.
And the steak them easy to make.
Yeah.
You know, so it's I think shock value was one of the probably the best things I learned with doing this cohort. That is very important, and in that data and research, we got shock value. I think that's how you touch our people. By you gotta scare people into a reality, and it will trickle down to the grandparents and to the parents. But it'll start in the kids, because my mother and my father dropped out in 10th grade, so I knew at a very young age that I was a little bit more active. I was moving more than my folks, so like I could show them things. And I feel like now with so much information and technology that's out there, that's how the kids are now. They don't care to hear us because they can go Google it. So it's like, if you give it to them in a way that they love it, you know, it's like, I want to share this with the world. You know, I want to share this with people, because this is important and it's scary. You know what I mean? Like AIDS or something, we got to scam. You feel me? Like this is. It's more detrimental. People dying more than that.
Yeah. We did
so I think when you're talking about scaring, and we're in this COVID pandemic, and we know how it hit blacks, African American, people of color more than any other race, you have to wonder, is it their immune system, their diets that it really affected? So I think this is great timing in when you look at that, and to talk about your diet and just our immune systems and how we're able to live healthier. And how is it that you can now kind of like, when you look at the data and you're talking about shock value, right? So who would have thought that we would have lost over 1 million people, you know? And then look at how many are African American or yeah. And because when they first started, so when you were talking about the generational gap, when COVID was first announced, it was hitting the older generation, right? And so you wonder, why did they initially say it was hitting the older generation? And is that from the pre-existing diseases that they had? So with you all focusing on diabetes, I think it will be a lot that can be shared and explored through diet and understanding what it is that really feeds us. So we've always heard the saying, you are what you eat, right? And this really kind of zooms in on that and really make you see, damn, they were really, that was true.
Yeah.
Right.
And talking about, just illnesses, we talked about Dr. Cancer. One of our biggest things is sugar that we're talking about. And one thing they say that spreads cancer or breeds cancer is sugar. So for the biggest thing, they say in dialysis, that's pretty much what they're doing. They're taking all, the good and the bad out, and they just put, replenishing it with the good. And truthfully, my father told me when we were younger, he was like, God put everything on this earth to heal yourself. Your body is this magnificent organism that can heal itself. I mean, when we were younger, you scrape your knee, you didn't even have to put nothing on it, and it fixed itself. And the reason why when they say you get older, it doesn't do it that much, because our nutrition isn't good.
That's right.
And that's what it comes down to, because when you have something like cancer come in, we're not eating enough nutrients to create the positive things that can fight off those things. And that's why dialysis and all that is, because we don't have what we need in our body to fight it off. And that's what the nutrients is doing. And so if you put that stuff in and you constantly changing your body, changing your diet, your body can actually fight those diseases. And, we talk about the documentary, how powerful these documentaries are. You learn that if you just do that, it can just wipe out everything. All these diseases we're talking about, all this cancer we're talking about, breast cancer, all this stuff is preventable. It's so and they all say it comes from diet.
So just to bring it on home, I want you to go home and check out the stats in Africa with cancer.
They're very low.
Very low.
It's super low.
Yeah.
So,
it's so low.
So it's all about diet,
So
what you eat, what you put in your, and they're plant-based, right?
Yeah.
Most
They
they
eat a
eat
lot of
plant
yams
matter.
and rice
Right.
and all that beans.
And yams is a good actual nutrients in terms of dealing with cancer and hypertension, and we don't even yams. We get the yams and mess them up.
Yeah,
right?
put all sugar.
So you talking about cancer, and I'm thinking about my mechanic. I think he's 70, but he was diagnosed with cancer, and he chose not to get the radiation or anything, and he changed his diet. And his diet is only okra and salmon.
Mm.
That's all he eats. Okra, salmon, and drink a lot of water. And so I would be interested to hear this poem about okra, Mr. Tay.
Yeah.
You did a video? You said based
It's a
on
video. It's a video. Yeah, it's a video I did, and I can say the poem too.
Okay, go ahead.
The poem. I just want to say this real quick.
Go ahead.
In our data too, they said the CDC said 80% of chronic illness can be prevented if obesity was addressed, because that's where I guess that's where it all stems and stops for most people. I remember in like 2010, 2011, I was looking at the stats and they were saying like almost 50% of America at the time was obese. And now, about 11 years later, it's 66%.
Well, and then you look at it. So this is my scientific stuff. Go back and look at it during the COVID and see how it grew during that time. People at home sitting in the house. We just ordering from Amazon, Peapod, and everywhere else, and we have no activity, right? So that data right there. That will also tell a story as to sedentary or not moving and what would our consumption look like.
And man, that's population control too. If you leave people in the house that long, kids and adults, that's going to happen. Especially when you run a country where for the last 10 plus years chronic illnesses kill people. That's what kills people. And it's not murder, it's not nothing. It's heart disease and stroke and all that wild shit.
But the thing is, you on that point, you're so right, because when you look at the gross domestic product, look at where the largest share of dollars go in healthcare.
Oh yeah,
and then no money. So let's go and break this all the way down. There's really no money in prevention.
It's not.
They're not focused on that, because all we're doing is reactionary work. Treating stuff that we could have prevented that we didn't, and then we gotta pay, super hyper attention to where we at now, not the preventive measures.
Well, it's in a documentary, and they just talk about how the preventable thing, even the places that's supposed to help you prevent it, are being paid. The way they are paying their workers and stuff like that is from the people that are actually killing us. So it's the folks it's the beef industry, it's the coke industry, it's all those industries that are actually paying the American Health Organization about cancer to keep them sustained. So of course they're gonna put in their diet recipes. Oh, eat this beef to help you. It's a more balanced diet. But truthfully, that is the thing that is causing your cancer.
And the actual bacteria and the biotics and all that's in those particular. And the red meat is off the chain. But I have to say, I do have a Wendy's burger every month. So
like they say, it's all moderation. And I'm gonna put it like this. I wouldn't say. That's a term we got we almost got to throw it away. We almost got to throw the moderation thing away, because what's moderate? I think we just have to do less than, right? So if we're eating healthier, right, then of course you should be able to have, your burger. If you're constantly making sure that you're putting those nutrients in your body throughout the, weeks and stuff, you should be able to have those things, and you have a good exercise diet and all that cool stuff. because those things kind of work together. I don't feel like we supposed to eat plants our whole life. You know, I think it is a healing tool. But you gotta remember, we done 30, 40 years of damage in our body, and our body's still here. So for us to be able to do a plant-based diet or something like that for like maybe 6 months can reverse 30 years of damage.
Okay, so that's one of the pieces I always, you know, I do a lot of work around aging in community and aging in place, and folks always want to put me in this little square and say, oh, she just worked with seniors. But really, my niche is working with people 45 to 60 to reverse not just your finances, right? Because if you start at 45 and you understand financially where you have some deficiencies, you can still have some time to retire with a nice little nest egg if you start investing in a pension plan. But then also on the medical side of things, if you start looking at all the like you said, damage, and you start doing some damage control, you can then reverse some of those diseases, especially in terms of diabetes. That is one of those diseases that can be reversed, right? And but if you allow it to go too far, so those kind of things. So and as we're starting to age, which I think that 45 to 60 group, we really need to be looking at everything in terms of how we've done things in the past and get some new routines in place, right? But you know, like you said, some people just don't care.
I think for real, and this is just part one. We actually planning like a 3-4 part documentary. It's for me, everything is out of mind. So you can really eat what you want, and we won't put this on, but you can eat what you want, do what you want. It's just that most people who do eat, you know, bad, they're living in bad situations. You know what I mean? And that's why they're eating that way. It's a lot of. But I say clean the body first so that you can clean the mind. You know what I mean? And that's what my journey was. Once I was able to like clean my mind, I can go eat whatever I want. I just won't. Your mind won't allow you to do it now. It just don't make sense. You know what I mean? What else gonna say? COVID. Like obesity is a pandemic.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it should be more people dying from that than COVID. You know what I mean? I don't even believe in COVID. You know?
So when you say you don't believe it, hold on. I had COVID, so I'm offended.
I think I got sick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could call it COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I got sick.
Mm-hmm.
We get sick every year. Most people, once a year, it's like, oh man, like, because they was getting paid X amount of dollars for every ventilator they was putting people.
No, yeah.
You know, the hospitals was getting that money. So if somebody came in with a flu, because the flu, I done had the flu before, and it was bad. It was worse than like 3-4 of my friends I done seen with COVID. So it's like, if I done came in, they said, you need a ventilator, that's the cash for the hospital. I think that, I mean, it may be just because I'm biased too, and we working on this. I really feel like diabetes is big for us, just like cancer and stroke and heart disease. But obesity, man, I think it's become okay to be overweight in America.
So it's funny. Remember the doctor we had on the series for the Legacy Collaborative Academy, and she was saying that how society now is being so accepting of heavier, you know, people overweight. She called them obese.
Shout out to Lizzo.
And she was like, but the deal is that it's not okay, and we trying to make it okay. So it's one of those situations where we do need to be conscious because of potential comorbidity issues in terms of diseases and onsets of things, and also life expectancy, right? We lessen it. For every so many pounds, you lose some time off your life, and folks don't understand that. So that's maybe a shock thing, value that you like to put on out there. And but you know, so we have to look at some stuff, you know, is acceptable. So now I'm not a person, I ain't gonna be out there fat shaming because I'm two pounds off for something that or being obese my damn self, I think. But I think that we definitely have to be conscious.
Ain't nothing wrong with having a person, man.
Yeah.
My thing is, even with that, I mean, you could take me, I'm considered obese because of my size and everything like that, but I come from, playing ball And I'm talking about a 6-pack, all that ripped up, all that cool stuff. And then, life happens and stuff like that. And then you focus on more things. You ain't worried about health. You worry about making money and your career and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And now, I'm more informed about, health things. I feel like, even when I talk to my friends and they feel like it's okay. And I tell them, I'm like, you know how good I felt when I was in shape? You know how good I felt when I was eating better? You know how clear your mind is? When you're eating better, like, I'm never tired. When I'm tired, I'm more like, oh man, I just need to go to sleep. I'm not like, I'm exhausted. I can't do tomorrow. At this point, and that's what's going on. And people think just because they like, oh, I'm a little heavy. I'm like, Slim, you gonna pay for that. Yeah. Trust me. I'm like, lose some weight.
Yeah, your joints and all that. Because I played ball. I actually played semi-pro ball, basketball, and I played basketball and I played softball. And then I came down here to DC and was playing some flag football. DC Divas, we played against them a lot. They were a tackle team though. Yeah. But when I got here, and now where I'm at 20 years later, almost 20, I don't even, I don't play as much ball. I still play Senior Olympics basketball, but I just really like my joints and everything hurt. And now I'm like, the sports, you now starting to pay for those injuries, and it's making you more, I hate to say it, it's making me lazy. Because I'm like, I was watching, what's his name, Dennis from Pittsburgh Steelers. I watched him get up out of the chair one day he was commentating. I said, that's how I feel. He was like, he couldn't hardly get up. And some days I have to wait for people to leave and then I'll get up. But what I'm noticing now that I'm not as active, I'm starting to put on a little bit more weight. And I'm just, my muscles, you're talking about atrophy, and the reverse cycles of your muscles. Right. All that is happening. I said, damn, I am 50. Shit. So just understand that, So, stuff like that. So, but I get it. But now I have to go back to looking at my foods and trying to make sense of it all. And encouraging that to like people live in the household. So I have a cousin here, my daughter's here, my youngest daughter, and she don't eat nothing healthy. I have to ask her where her vegetables at. She's one of those kids you talked about early on and when we first met you. Eat Cheetos in the morning. Her metabolism is like this. She weighs 0.
They say my metabolism fast. I'm good. That's what adults tell you growing up. That's what they tell us. You got a fast metabolism. So now you in your head, my metabolism fast. I can eat whatever.
Eating hot Cheetos in the morning and she's like, well, I'm drinking water. I'm like, anyway, you're 17. I guess I can't tell you that. So, but so this is an effort for the whole community, and we have to really be focused, and we have to be serious because when we looking at the data, and I know Sharita, you probably had something to add to this. Just looking at the data in terms of life expectancy from Ward 7 and 8 to Ward 1, 20-year difference.
20-year gap.
Yeah. So we already know in Ward 7 and 8 that we may not see 85. Mm-hmm. We have to figure out why that is, and then be focused on the nutritional part, maybe the economics of it all, or whatever that's causing us to have access to stuff is really the answer. But really put some solutions in place so that we can gain some more years on our lives.
Yeah, it ain't death. It ain't murder like the news will tell you. It's definitely not that. I mean, we not trying to boil the ocean. So we focus on, trying to just get people to drink more water. And it's like putting down the soda, putting down the orange juice, putting down apple juice. Anything you think healthy is not. So just drink water. And that's what the name of the documentary was. D is drinking water. The DC Health Jump. And like learning about Coca-Cola with 80 grams of sugar in it. You know what I mean? Like the recommended dose of sugar or intake should be, it's like between 25 and 35 grams a day. A day. So one Coca-Cola put you at 80 grams already. So it's like, and we don't have that information growing up. Nobody tells you that.
I just think about Coca-Cola in its entirety. Like, I was watching a documentary years ago. I watched two. One when they were cooking the cocoa plants in Africa. You know, they had real cocaine in Coca-Cola. That was one thing. That was decades ago. But then I watched something maybe 5-6 years ago, and I watched somebody clean a battery post.
Oh yeah,
I did that test in chemistry class.
I was like, yo, so I'm just sitting back and I'm looking at that, and then I'm thinking about the McDonald's, the Burger King, the Wendy's burger, all these different little things. Yeah, like, so that's information out there. We just got, like you said, wrap it up in something that is palatable for people who they can digest. So so this work is needed. So what do we need to do?
Really, that's the week, man.
What do we need to do to help y'all? How do we get? Oh, I do that.
Pray, just pray it work out. That's what I'm saying. With the mind, all is perfect. God made everything down here perfect, like Cool Father said. It's even when you think it's not, life is always happening for you, never to you. So, I always say I love the rain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, me too.
I love the rain because it helps things grow and it slows things down. So for me, like, COVID was rain. I mean, personally, I made the most money I ever made during COVID. You know, I got away from a lot of people. I got healthy. It gave people opportunity to save money, sit down. It did a lot for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, especially ones who didn't go to work and got them crazy checks and stuff. So, like, a lot of people looking at it like it was a bad thing, but I see nothing but positive in it. And, like you said, it was perfect timing to help us usher in this idea of art education, art health education, like John Hopkins, Sibley, and all them people with the years and years and decades, and the numbers keep the gap wide. That's all it does, and I learned that when I was working, like I said, with those people. They say the more information is out there, but we don't know why no one is, for black people specifically, is catching it. It's like it's nobody, we can't get it the way y'all giving it. You know what I mean?
So I was listening to you all, and it's almost like, how do you put this in a game, right? Because the kids now, we talk about they not getting exercise and they sitting in front of the Xbox or whatever, right? So how do you almost put this into a game, something that's gonna give them the shock value? So instead of you shooting a man down, it's almost like you showing cubes of sugar and how that's killing you. Yeah,
when we
right.
did our prototype, we actually, this is what I was going to reach out to you about. We came up with this idea. This was a mobile app / a video game console.
Oh, okay.
Idea. It was one of our 4 different, ideations, concepts, or whatever. And a lot of things we came up with, we just throw them in our pockets. And once we got the funding,
right. So we might not even want this part because people was quick to stuff.
Yeah,
intellectual property.
IP. For sure though, like, I don't know if y'all ever seen somebody play Grand Theft Auto, you know what I mean? So how impactful that game was on our lives coming up, and then on the youngins too, it's like they've got that game to the point where now you can have whole drug rings.
Oh yeah, I saw.
You can play with your friends online, and y'all can run a whole drug ring together and go shoot other people from other gangs and drug rings, and it's like I stopped playing with Grove Street, San Andreas, but even in that, CJ, the character, you was able to lift weights. You was able to go in there and lift weights, and you will watch him get strong, and you can go drink a beer and you'll get drunk, or smoke some weed and he'll be high. Like, so it's like, I'm sure they could, if they, like you said, there's no money in prevention measures, so they could definitely come up with this. What was the name of our joint? We called it the Sugars.
The Sugars.
The Sugars, and you get this character, and you type in your vitals. And it was funny because Cool had mentioned, like, some people gonna put in their vitals and they weight, and they already gonna be effed up. You know what I mean? So it's like,
but
that's a reality.
and it's how do you heal yourself in that world now? What do you go do to heal yourself? So I mean,
that's real shock value right there. When you put that,
and that's an
idea. This is what you look like. You know what I mean? Like that.
And that's an idea. That's an idea for, like, they used to have those like gigapets growing up when we were younger.
Oh yeah.
And it was like when your dog got sick, you try to do all the stuff to heal them and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and these kids now, these teens, they are addicted to stuff like that,
yeah.
And they learn that way. Just like you talking about these documents, they learn this way. This is how they learning. They not reading a book all day long. They're visual. And that's where the world is going to. You can, the baby could come out, and I'm gonna say him. The baby could come out with a song and just put his cover art on there, and he'll get 1 million views, right, in a couple of hours. But he could put a visual out, and he'll get 10 to 40 million views from the same song, but just the visual of it, the video. So it just lets you know that most people are visually educated now.
So I'm gonna, and I want to say that the system will have you think that we're that way because we're lazy and we don't want to pick up a book, but we have no time. And that's the problem, right? We don't have any time because we're either running from one hustle to the next hustle, to the job, to the school, my kids, my this, my that. So virtually is how we get our information. And be honest, if you look at the data that shows how long we even look at a video, because if it goes over 12 minutes, I think it is, we tune out. Because you need to be impactful in 7 minutes.
Right.
Or we on to our next thing. That's right? And it's not like we really can slow down because the social economics of it all, we trying to keep pace with the dollar. Right? So, and I'm not letting people off the hook that don't read and they got time to read. But the vast majority of folks they don't have the time. That's why apps, videos, and things like that in terms of technology advancements are good, but it also not good because it takes away from the continuity of education that we learn intellectually from books. So that's some real stuff though. We don't have no time. That's another thing with fast food. That's why they call it fast food, because black folks are always on the go. We don't have no time to rest. And if we sit too long, somebody gonna call us lazy. What do you mean? I was watching Colin Kaepernick's movie, his documentary, which was excellent. And it was a scene in there where he's playing basketball and he has a headache. The coach asks, really has his cornrows are too tight, but then the coach asks him what's going on with him. He said, I have a headache. He said, well, go run. He was like, you want me to run while I got a headache and don't feel good? And he was like, yeah, go run because you'll learn how to get endurance or something like that, persevere. Really? Because that's what it, because we just on that cyclical cycle, right? So we gotta start really doing COVID, like, taking some lessons and saying, time out for what's important. And I'm gonna let other stuff won't catch up. And if I can't do it, oh well.
Well, you say other stuff won't catch up, but that's what got us here, right? Because we in the catch up game.
Oh yeah.
Because of the discrimination and the what we did not have. So we have always been in the catch up game, and now it's a situation of so you now don't want me to catch up. Because now we back to, this a whole nother story. Now I can't even vote. You putting all these laws in that I can't vote. And so you don't want me to catch up. You look at us as a machine, going back to Kaepernick. And it's almost like the slave game, that our bodies, when you talk about playing football and you go to the combine and it's like, okay, that's a strong black strapping man, and so he can do this and he can do that. Yeah, and so we still back to our education. So when you talk about time, is what we choose to do with it.
That's right.
So when Tay is saying that during this time of COVID, how he was able to make the most money, he made a decision to focus on his game and to see where I can advance, focus on my health. And so it's called choices. And I remember when being at a charter school and talking to some of the children, they didn't think they were going to make it to the next day or 18. Right? So if they were living their lives like that, like I'm just trying to make it through the day. So if they're thinking that they just trying to make it to the next day, they don't have a vision. They don't even have the vision of getting older. They don't have a vision of going to college. They don't have a vision of starting their own business. Because they just trying to make it through the day.
Yeah.
Here and today, right? Here today. That's all I got.
We're the hardest working people in the world.
Yeah.
Always have.
That's why we don't have no time.
That's what all the time. And you know, I know we said we'd talk, and we're gonna have a part 2 of this.
Yeah.
But all these health inequities and racial inequities, we all know is part of a system, right? But more importantly, the system has not recognized our inequities cost them greatly. The more money in terms of that they restrict or don't put into our communities to make sure the whole picture grows in terms, even like health, even with like food. You don't make sure that we have the proper food in our community. Okra, right? We should have that, right? If we don't have those kind of things that help us to yield ourselves into a healthy lifestyle, what happens is we become a burden on the healthcare system, which costs them even more. So my thing is that why not just ensure that we have all of the items that we need to make this thing really be equitable. So it's more so, I would just think that we talk about the social determinants of health, they're the political determinants of health, because all this is political. And that's all I'm gonna say right now. But I think this has been wonderful. I can't wait to view it now. It's been like one of the best dialogues that I had with some young folks in a long time. So that now I won't feel bad. Like I told my mom I can't die because I ain't got no young people to do with no sense to carry on that legacy. But now that I know y'all back in the trenches, I feel a little bit more comfortable. And I thank you for coming to my den. This is Dr. Kat's Den.
Thank you for having me.
And Sharita, I don't know, you got some last words?
I'm gonna let Mr. Tay take us out with this Oprah poem.
Oh yes!
Oprah poem. Alright, the poem, we're gonna call it Oprah today. It says, dress it up and make it real for us. And if you hear, feel for us. In the process of getting legislation to come and create a bill for us, and we don't need a whole lot, just leave a little for us. And we can make a lot of change. It's a lot of things in my neighborhood. A lot of lacks too. Cadillac, Similac. I got an uncle named Casey, and his train line been green since he went to Blue, and he's had diabetes since he was 16 too. Working with the green scheme, I figured I'd find a safer way. We went to Alabama Avenue, right up in the Safeway. I heard that Okra did the job, so I stepped into the store high and proud, like, excuse me, Mo, but could you show me to your Okra though? He said, I got you, Joe, come on. We checked the whole store. He even used his phone. He said, sorry, but we don't have okra, home. I said, dang. I said, we went through 3 hours of sugar, but y'all don't have okra, though. I said, y'all got Coke, Pepsi, and Cheetos, but y'all don't have okra, though. I said, I get it. I mean, we'll keep buying it as long as the insulin comes with it. Quick story to let you know that it's real. A quick story to let you know how they feel. They figure, hey, with the murder rate and the police statements behind these yellow tapers, these youngins will be dead any day anyway. Not to mention, they know that we love television. So every time we turn on our TV screens, they'll be sure to advertise it right on our BETs. Cheap sugary drinks you can afford with your EBTs. I'm gonna stop right there. That's the gist of it. That's okra though. And
oh, wow.
It's important to drink more water and put the sodas down for sure. I got another line I say in another poem, and it says, your government regulates tobacco because of its alleged death tolls. With the underlying conditions, with COVID, with the underlying conditions, lynchings, and COVID, I think the least we could do is stop smoking these sodas. That's that all up. But basically comparing a soda to a cigarette, and I think we coming into that time now. Like, I think if we are able to do it in the way we want to, without too many restraints, we can definitely show the youth, which will trickle down into the family, how detrimental sugar in liquid form is to our people specifically. And that's what Wassup Te, WassupTe.com. WASSUPTE.com. You can follow us and everything we got going on right there.
Wow, Tay, that was deep. Well, I gotta give a shout out to Philly because we actually on that liquid crack. We decided in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, we got a soda tax.
Yeah, that's
So people, when you go in there, think you buying $1 soda, it ain't $1 soda no more, and it's not just 6%. Was it 6% tax? I think it's now like 25% tax, whatever. So it hits you hard in your pocketbook. But somebody gonna make a way. It's like you said, got the EBT cards. It ain't my money.
Pretend.
But thank you, Tay, and thank you, Jeremy and Sharita. Give us some last words of inspiration on our way out of here.
Well, I would just say that, as you can hear today, that with Legacy Collaborative, Dynamic Solution, and Wassup Te, that we can come together and collaborate to make a positive difference for all of our generations. So it starts with our youth, but our youth can teach our teens, and our teens can teach our elders, and our elders can give us wisdom. So as we continue in this community to make strides and affect the disparities on health of our Black and brown people, we continue to stay positive, stay healthy, and peace and love.
Peace.